Let's be honest, you already know what your bad money habits are: overspending, using credit, and whatever your personal vices might be. And so in this episode, we're not going to be talking about all that obvious stuff, but we are going to be talking about those more systemic attitudinal habits that are really a level deeper, that drive all those surface level habits and that make it so difficult to try and change them. We're going to talk about easy ways to change those habits that are keeping you poorer than you need to be and keeping you feeling poorer than you actually are and then you need to be feeling. We're going to be talking about 5 easy things you can do and the very important underlying factor that permeates all of them. So like most people, if you've been trying to change your bad money habits, then I bet you've been doing it all backwards. And that's okay, because that's what most people tend to do. They think that using their willpower and just being aware is enough. But the problem is that willpower doesn't work. You know, anyone who's ever tried to give up smoking or anything like that knows how difficult it is, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to use your conscious mind to override an unconscious habit. And up to 98% of everything you do, think, say, feel is unconscious. And so it's really, really hard work to try and use your conscious mind to override those programs. It means you need to be constantly vigilant and on top of it. It gets really tiring. And then the moment you turn your back, those old unconscious patterns kick in again and take over, and you're back to where you started. So willpower just doesn't work because you're basically fighting a losing battle. Shifting everyday habits is hard because they're driven by these unconscious patterns in our nervous system. And, you know, those things are great because they make our life so much easier. And it means we don't have to think about those things that we do routinely every single day. But sometimes some things creep in there that really aren't serving us. But because they've become unconscious patterns in our nervous system, overriding them gets really difficult. And so we really need to go to that deepest of levels and we need to start overriding the program that's driving those habits. And as you change those programs, the beautiful thing is that the habits miraculously change by themselves because the habits need to match the program. Our unconscious is this wonderful, helpful tool. You know, it makes our life easier. If you think about learning to ride a bicycle, that was hard. Learning to drive a car, that was really difficult at the time. But then as you got more comfortable with it and your nervous system started learning what to do, you got to a stage where it became this unconscious habit. And now you can drive a car without really even being present. You're thinking about work or the family or what's for dinner or what you forgot to do this morning. And you might get to the other end and go, oh my God, I don't even remember going through those traffic lights. Were they red or green? Hopefully green. So these become like an internal autopilot. Once that pattern's laid down, the destination is programmed in and we will automatically do what we need to do to get to our destination. And so that's wonderful when it's working for us. But when it starts working against us and we decide that, no, I don't want that destination anymore, I want a new destination, it becomes quite challenging because we're trying to fight the autopilot. You know, while we've got our hands on the rudder or whatever that thing's called in the cockpit, we can maybe override the autopilot and steer the plane in a new direction, change altitude. But as soon as you take your hands off the wheel again, the autopilot's going to kick in and say, that's okay, I've got it covered, because we are always going to be heading to the programmed destination, no matter what little bumps along the road, which may include you using your willpower to try and override the program. No matter what little bumps along the road we experience, we will end up at the pre-programmed destination. So that's why just changing those little everyday surface habits is so hard. So let's talk about these 5 unexpected habits that are actually a deeper level habit that will start creating this change for you. And very importantly, before I go, I will share with you the one underlying factor that permeates all of them that you really need to address. The number 1 habit that's actually keeping you poor is the habit of saving. I know. So what I'm talking about is that when you're in the habit of saving, you're thinking of yourself as a saver rather than an investor. And there's a huge difference between the two, because saving is about being safe, squirreling the nuts away for winter, right? Whereas investing is actually about financial independence and growth. And so when you just save your money and put it in the bank, chances are over time, that money will be worth so much less, because usually the basic bank interest won't even keep up inflation, which means the value of your money is shrinking over time. So when you're trying to save, you're coming from a mindset of there's not enough and I have to hold on to it because I don't want to end up poor. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas when you take on the mindset of an investor and you stop saving and actually start looking at investing your money, you're looking to make your money grow and multiply. You're looking to make your money go out and make money babies, which will then allow you to create financial independence and freedom. The second habit that you really want to get out of, because it's keeping you poor, is budgeting. Because budgeting is all about there's not enough and I need to make every dollar count and stretch everything as far as I possibly can and tighten my belt as much as I possibly can so I can save money, squirrel away the nuts for winter. But that mindset of budgeting comes from a place of lack and limitation. It comes from a place of restriction and constriction. And so we want to switch that up. And we want to take you from a mindset of budgeting to actually having your money go to work for you by employing and implementing a money system where every dollar gets a job to do and you have a plan and a focus and your money's actually going out to work for you. So the difference is kind of between having your money show up and just putting it into all these different rooms and saying, and don't go anywhere because I need you when I need you, versus sending your money into a factory where it can actually be productive and start making money babies, growing and multiplying and helping you reach all your financial goals. The next habit you really want to get out of, because it's keeping you poor, is a lack of focus. And what I mean by that is when money tends to come in, especially in larger lump sums, what most people tend to do is they don't have a focus. And so they'll put a little bit towards savings, a little bit towards debt, spend some on maybe a holiday or something like that. And then, a little bit further down the track, it feels like nothing really happened. You've spread yourself so thin that you went nowhere fast. And I'd love you to let me know in the comments below, has that ever happened to you? Have you had a big income month or maybe a windfall of some sort? And a little bit further down the track, you looked around and thought, I didn't really get very far with that. And really, it should have made a bigger impact. So that's a lack of focus. So that lack of focus will keep you poor. And the next money habit that you really need to get out of is being stingy with yourself. Because being stingy with yourself, not giving yourself enough spending money, not giving yourself enough fun money, means that you're putting yourself into that place where everything feels like it's shrinking. There's this lack vibration, this lack mentality of it's not enough. I can't even do these simple basic things that I would love to do. And so what that does is it reinforces this mindset of there's not enough, which then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it also puts you into an energy where you feel like you just don't have enough. You might feel a bit sorry for yourself and you might show up with that smell of desperation in your business, which actually drives clients away. And also you energetically repel money because your whole energy will be there's not enough money here, there's not enough money here. And so what you then unconsciously will keep creating is a state that confirms that not enough money, which might mean that you get more unexpected bills and, things that where you were expecting income will just not happen, not eventuate. So it's important to get out of that habit of being too stingy with yourself because it's actually working against you and keeping you poor. Not to mention that it means you're going to keep blowing whatever budget or money system you're trying to implement and make you feel like a failure and like it's not working. Okay, one more money habit that's keeping you poor to go. And then very importantly, we're going to be talking about that underlying factor that permeates all 5 of these that you really need to address. So this habit is actually one that might seem like one of those surface level ones, but we're going to be talking about it at the deeper level. And then it's going to tie in with that permeating factor that runs through all of these that you do need to address. So what I'm talking about is instant gratification, and also just in general using spending to mask other things, to mask deeper needs. So one of the things I ask my magnetic money students to check in on is this a need or is this a want? Do I really, really need this? Or do I just want this? And maybe I've convinced myself I need this. And then if you do just want it, to check in. Why do I want it? You know, do I want it because this will actually fulfill me, add to my joy of life and my feeling of abundance? Or is it because I'm trying to mask something else? Maybe I'm trying to mask a deeper pain. Maybe I'm trying to fit in. Maybe I'm trying to feel loved. Maybe I'm trying to achieve some sort of status or acknowledgement. Like, what is it actually about if it is a genuine want rather than a genuine need? You know, what are you really trying to buy? And a really good way of knowing that this is not coming from a good place, it's actually coming from one of those old money stories that aren't serving you, is when you experience buyer's remorse. So if you've experienced that in the past, and we all have, right, then checking in and going, okay, well, what was I actually trying to do when I made that purchase, when I decided to spend that money? What feeling was I really chasing? That's a much deeper level thing than just, you know, I wanted that dress because it was on sale and everybody was wearing it and I felt like it was a major gap in my wardrobe. Was there actually something deeper going on? So we just talked about those 5 habits that are really those deeper level habits that are keeping you poor, because they're literally convincing you that you're poor, making you feel poor, and making you create more lack of abundance and money. But there is one underlying factor that permeates all of them, and you really need to look at that, be aware of it, and start to do something about it. And the one underlying factor that is actually informing and driving all of these is a belief, a very powerful limiting belief that there's not enough money. Because if you've been sitting here ticking the boxes as we've been talking through these 5 habits that keep you poor, then it means that they're all coming from and being informed by an underlying belief that there's not enough money. Because the belief in needing to save rather than thinking of yourself as an investor comes from a place of there's not enough, I better hold on to my nuts for the winter. The belief in budgeting rather than looking at a money system that helps you grow your wealth comes again from a place and a belief that there's not enough. So we have to budget, we have to make it last, we have to make every dollar count. A lack of focus comes from a place of not really believing that if you focus on just one thing at a time, you can move forward financially. It's like there's not enough, so I've got to just try and make this stretch as much as possible. And this instant gratification and wanting to fill these deeper needs usually also comes from a place of believing there is not enough. And so I better grab it while I can, or I'm just going to have to treat myself because God damn it, you know, it's my time now. And also the lack of fun money comes from a place of being stingy with ourselves and saying, no, it's not okay for you to have all this money just to splurge and have a good time with, because then there won't be enough for other very important things, and you know, something bad might happen. So this underlying belief is this systemic autopilot program that drives all of these habits that are keeping you poor. We need to look at how do we not just override the autopilot, but how do we actually reprogram it so it takes us to a whole new different destination in a whole different way. The way to actually change that in the program you do want to reinforce and lay down to become that new unconscious pattern is one where you're actually focused on the abundance that's all around you, and that there is plenty of money and all the cool things you can do with it. So it's actually about changing your focus from what can I do to make sure the money lasts because I don't believe there's enough, to wow, I've got so much money coming in. What are all the really cool things I can do with it that will help me totally enjoy it and become even more abundant and reach that financial independence that I'm looking for? Because you don't want to just stop being poor. You want to actually feel and get rich, right? And so the key to that is to actually start focusing on the things and start reinforcing the habits that will make you richer. And that's what this episode here is all about. So that's the one you want to jump on next. I'll see you over there.